Don't rely on your equipment to take good pictures. Good day. I'm in a very special place. Actually, I'm not. I'm in my backyard, but I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time. I'm in the middle of the day. It's 11:11 right now, and I wanted to tell you about equipment. Now, you can get on YouTube and watch all kinds of videos on equipment. Now, I shoot the Nikon D850. But there are a lot of people that say, well, the reason you're a good photographer is you've got a good lens and a good camera. That's not completely true. Yes, I can get better pictures with this camera, but don't rely on your equipment to take good pictures. The most important thing in landscape photography and portrait photography, I guess any kind of photography, is good composition. You're either born with an eye for composition, or you do enough photography that you learn good composition. Everybody says you're good because of your equipment. Let me switch cameras. Okay, so I don't know what happened, but I turned around to pick up this camera to show you on the video, and for some reason the video stopped. I bought this camera for the sole purpose of a lightweight camera that I could take with me hiking, and my wife and I have a big adventure this summer. We're going to be bicycling halfway across the United States, so I wanted a camera that I could carry with me. The D850 is just too heavy. This is what I would consider an entry-level camera. You can take off the lens, interchangeable lenses, but yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. Okay, so I've moved you right over my shoulder. Here's where I live, and we've lived here a long time, but I've got this log out in front of me. Let me shoot a little video. So I'm going to turn on my camera here and show you what I've got. So I saw this log right here. It's contrasty. You can see the dark shadows inside of there and the highlights back here in the leaves, the highlights. So on this camera, the Nikon Z30, it has no viewfinder. And I still hold it up to my eye, but I only have a screen that I look at. So let me go ahead and take this image. I haven't had this camera very long, so it takes me a few minutes to get through the menus. And of course, it's got more menus than my Nikon D850 has, more dials, which I'm used to. So I've got everything set up. I'm going to go to manual again. I'm going to make sure that I get my exposure on the first one. Turn down my shutter speed, and what I'll do is I'll bracket with my shutter speeds. I'm going to focus a third of the way into the scene and fire. Now I'm going to turn down my shutter speed, open it up for shadows. I'm just looking on the monitor, and then I'm going to shut it down for the highlights. Okay, so I think I got it. Let me go back to the computer. Well, I'm back in my office. It was hotter out there than I expected. Pretty humid here in Missouri already, and we're at the end of May. But I'm going to take you into Lightroom and show you how I do an HDR off my Z30. So here we are in Lightroom, and I've got my 3 images right up here. So this is the normal exposure, the brighter exposure, and the darker exposure. Now let me zoom in. The darker exposure, and you can see all the detail here. But this is the lighter exposure. You can see the detail here, but you can't see it here. And this is the normal, kind of in between both of them. A lot of detail there, very little detail there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to select all 3 photos, right click, and go into Photo Merge HDR. HDR, there we go. Now I keep my movement, all these red areas you see, there may have been movement in the photo image, so I'm going to merge those. And it's taking all three of those images and bringing them together. So here we have the final image. If we zoom in, you can see that the highlights are a little burned out up here. I'm going to wait for it to load. And then the shadows down there are open, but not quite enough. So what I do first, I'll start here with highlights, pull down my highlights till I get details, and pull down my exposure. There we go. Now I'm going to go down to my shadows, this area right here. I'm going to brighten my shadows, pull them open till I get detail, about right there. Now let me zoom out, and then the overall exposure is a little bit light or dark, so I lighten it up. My subject, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to go in here and say select subject, and it should pick out the log. It did, except for this one little area, so I'm going to add that by using a brush tool and add that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and adjust just where that magenta is showing. I'm going to brighten that up. I'm going to take down my highlights a little bit, open up my shadows a little more. Now, so it selected that. Now I'm going to duplicate and invert this. Now it picks the background area. So what I'm going to do to make that log stand out a little bit more, I'm going to take down my background a little bit. So let me do a backslash key on my Mac here. Before, after, before, after. Can you see all the detail that I'm getting in this area right here? And I haven't done any overall sharpening to this. So there's the before and there's the after. Now let's zoom in here, and I'm going to go down to my adjustments, going to go to details, going to sharpen up to about 60 so, and then I'm going to hold down my option key on my Mac, and I'm going to slide that till all I get is almost lines, something to that effect. Now I'm going to go back to my basic, come down here to texture, pull it over till it looks good to me, and then a little clarity. Then I'm going to zoom back out and try the dehaze. It did add a little contrast to it. The last thing I do, I'm going to go to my white channel, hold down option, and move to the right. You can see those little spots right there where the log, the brightest spot of the log is. And then I'm going to do the same with my blacks the other way. Now I go a little heavy on my blacks. I like dark shadows. Overall it looks a little too much, and I think I've overdone the dehaze. And then the last thing I do, as Ansel Adams would always do, I'm going to add a vignette. And I like to just burn in the edges. So I take it down to around 14, 15, take the feather off, midpoint, and I like to have a little square around there, and then I'm going to pull my feather back, brighten it up a little more, and that would be my finished image. So thanks for watching. Come back. In the future, I should have more videos. I plan on getting more consistent with these videos. And please, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Thanks. See ya.